I still remember that Christmas Eve as if it were yesterday. South Dakota was bitterly cold. The wind howled in relentless gusts that felt like it could slice through skin and flesh. I, Grant Fowler, 37 years old, was sitting at the head of the long conference table on the 22nd floor of Fowler Construction's headquarters. Black suit, tie knotted tight, pen in hand, about to sign the year-end $100 million contract. Our partners had flown in from Chicago, lawyers from both sides were ready, and the tension in the room was so thick you could hear the ticking of the wall clock. I was delivering my final sentence before putting pen to paper. We commit to completing the project on schedule and delivering quality that exceeds your company's expectations. Then the phone in my breast pocket started vibrating like mad. I meant to ignore it. I really did. I had never let a personal call interrupt a deal of this magnitude. But the name that flashed on the screen made my heart skip a beat. Piper, my daughter, 12 years old, the one person I would trade the entire world for just to see her smile. I raised my hand in apology, my voice suddenly unsteady. Please excuse me for 1 minute. I have to take this call. The moment the conference room door closed behind me, I pressed the phone to my ear. Piper's voice came through, tiny, choked with tears, mixed with the howl of the wind and the chattering of her teeth. Daddy, I'm sorry. I know you're in a meeting, but I just got kicked out of Grandma's house. They said, there's no more room for me. I'm at the bus stop now, about 4 miles from Grandma's. Daddy, I'm so cold. I froze in the hallway. The whole world collapsed beneath my feet. The $100 million contract. The partners from Chicago. The future of the company. In that instant, everything turned to ash. All I could hear was my little girl crying in 20 below zero cold. Wait for me, baby. Daddy's coming right now. Don't be scared. I'm on my way. My throat was so tight I could barely speak. Tears were already burning at the bridge of my nose. I pushed the door open and stepped back into the conference room, not caring what I was destroying. I'm very sorry, gentlemen. My family has an emergency. We'll have to postpone today's signing. I'll take full responsibility for everything. Mr. Thompson, the lead partner, went pale. Their lawyer's mouth fell open. My own staff sat stunned. I didn't wait for anyone to react. I grabbed my coat and bolted for the elevator. I sprinted down to the parking garage, fired up my black Ford F-150, tires screeching on the icy concrete. I floored it, headlights cutting through the thick, swirling snow. GPS said 38 minutes to the bus stop near the Holt neighborhood. I made it in 24. I don't remember how many red lights I ran or how fast I was going. All I knew was that if I was even 1 minute late, my little girl could freeze to death. When I got there, I jerked the truck to the curb, headlights flooding the old deserted bus stop. And I saw her, my Piper. She was curled up on the rotting wooden bench, arms wrapped tightly around a red-wrapped gift box that was crumpled and soaked from the snow. Her thin sneakers were drenched, socks sodden, tiny feet purple against the deep snow. Her blonde hair was a tangled mess, face ghostly white, lips blue. She was shaking violently, wave after wave, like the last leaf of autumn about to fall. I leapt out of the truck without turning off the engine or even closing the door. Piper! Oh, my poor baby. She looked up, eyes red and brimming with tears, then burst into sobs. Daddy, I'm so cold, Daddy. I dropped to my knees in the snow, yanked off my thick sheepskin coat and wrapped it around her, pulling her into my arms. Her little body was ice cold, so cold I was terrified she'd shatter. I scooped her up. She weighed almost nothing, like holding a handful of snow, and ran back to the truck. I set her in the passenger seat and cranked the heater to maximum. I'm here, sweetheart. Daddy's here. Don't be scared. I kept repeating it over and over, rubbing her tiny hands between mine. Piper was still trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks, her breath coming out in little white clouds. Between shivers and sobs, she whispered, voice breaking from cold and hurt. I just wanted to give Grandma the music box I made myself. I spent a whole month on it. But she said, there's no room. She said I'm not her real granddaughter, so I can't stay. Rage boiled inside me. A handmade music box. The one she stayed up late every night working on in secret, gluing each piece of wood, painting every snowflake, just hoping Grandma would say, "What a beautiful gift, sweetheart." I looked at the soggy, crumpled box in Piper's lap, the wrapping paper ruined, the ribbon torn. It felt like someone was stabbing my heart over and over. Anger, pain, guilt, everything surged at once. I had let her end up like this because I had trusted that family too much, because I had tried so hard to be the good son-in-law. Piper pressed herself against me, voice small as a kitten's. "Daddy, I'm hungry, I'm cold, I'm so scared. I thought you wouldn't come. I thought you'd left me too." I held her as tight as I could, kissing her wet hair, my own tears falling and mingling with hers. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, baby. From now on, I will never let you be alone like this again. I promise." The heater finally started working. Warmth began to spread through the cab. Piper's shaking slowly eased, but her eyes were still red, still frightened. I pulled her close, let her head rest against my chest, and stroked her hair without stopping. Outside, the snow kept falling in a white curtain, the wind still howling. But inside the truck, there was only the sound of my heart pounding and my little girl sobbing in my arms. That Christmas Eve, I lost a $100 million contract. But I almost lost my entire world. And in that moment, I knew everything was about to change forever. I eased off the gas a little, giving Piper time to calm down. She had stopped sobbing, but she was still trembling, clutching the crumpled gift box with both hands as if someone might snatch it away. The heater was finally warming the cab, and a faint pink was returning to her cheeks. I gently stroked her hair, keeping my voice as soft as I could. "Sweetheart, I need to know exactly what happened. Tell me from the beginning, okay? I'm right here. You're safe now." Piper took a deep, shaky breath, her red-rimmed eyes meeting mine, then started speaking in a tiny but steady voice, trying hard not to cry again. "I got to Grandma's house late in the afternoon. Everyone was already there, Dad. Relatives had come from out of town. The house was full of laughter, Christmas lights blinking everywhere, the smell of cookies and roast meat filling the air. I thought it was going to be a really happy day." She paused, swallowed hard, and went on. "I ran up to Grandma holding the gift. I'd spent a whole month making that music box, painting snowflakes on it, gluing little bells inside. I handed it to Grandma Ainsley with a big smile and said, 'Merry Christmas, Grandma. This is the present I made for you.' I was hoping she'd praise it, maybe hug me the way she hugs the other grandkids. I gripped the steering wheel tighter but kept my voice calm. 'And then what, baby? Go on. You can tell me.' Piper drew another shaky breath, every word trembling. 'Grandma.' She slapped my hand away hard. The box almost fell. She looked at me coldly and said, 'The house is full. There's no room for you to stay. Go home.' My heart clenched, but Piper kept going, her voice cracking with hurt. Mom, Sabrina, was standing right next to her. I looked at Mom, waiting for her to say something. Just one sentence like, 'Let her stay, Mom,' would have been enough. But Mom didn't defend me. She didn't say a single word to keep me there. She just stood there silently and turned her face away. Piper bowed her head, fingers twisting together. I looked around the room. A few aunts and uncles gave me pitying looks, like they felt bad but didn't dare do anything. They all stared at the floor, no one spoke up. I stood there for a while. Then I slipped out. The door closed behind me. I heard the lock click, and the laughter inside started up again like nothing had happened. Hearing it felt like someone was crushing my chest. I could barely breathe. Piper has never lied or exaggerated in her life. She's the most honest child I've ever known. In 12 years of being her father, I can read every flicker in her eyes. The image of my little girl standing alone in a crowded room, rejected and abandoned, replayed in my mind like a nightmare on loop. Rage surged through me. I whipped the truck around and sped straight back toward the Holt house, only a few hundred yards away. I slammed on the brakes in front of the gate, snow spraying from the tires. I killed the engine and turned to Piper. "Stay in the truck and keep warm, okay? Daddy's just going to talk to them for a minute." I promise no one will hurt you again." She nodded, eyes still frightened, clutching the ruined gift box like a shield. I stepped out, closed the door gently, and strode up to the Holt house. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the bell. I shoved open the front door, the same door I had personally fixed the lock on last year, and walked in without invitation. Inside, the party was still in full swing, as if nothing had happened. Laughter rang out. The long table groaned under platters of golden roast turkey, plum pudding, fruit salad, and glasses of red wine. The Christmas tree sparkled, children ran around shrieking with joy, relatives clinked glasses and toasted one another. The big, luxurious house, leather sofas, walnut dining table, everything I had paid for or renovated myself, didn't have even one seat for a 12-year-old girl. Every head turned when the door banged open. The room froze for a second. I walked straight to the center and faced the entire Holt family. Clark Holt, Sabrina's father, face flushed from wine, slammed the table and stood up, bellowing, "Grant! Have you lost your mind? Barging into someone's house without so much as a knock. Have you no manners?" Ainsley Holt, Sabrina's mother, the one who always flaunted her status and looked down on Piper with open contempt, stood by the tree, champagne flute in hand, and screeched, "This is a party for the real family. Piper is not my real granddaughter, and you know that better than anyone. She doesn't belong here tonight. Please don't ruin our Christmas." Carson Holt, Sabrina's lazy, spoiled younger brother, lounged in an armchair with his legs crossed, already filming the chaos on his phone, smirking like he was watching a comedy show. "Oh, here comes the Christmas night drama. This is gonna be epic, definitely going viral." I scanned the room full of noise and excess, rage rising in my throat like bile. Empty chairs everywhere, food piled high, warmth and luxury all around, yet they had left a child outside in deadly cold. I spoke low and sharp as a blade. "How heartless can you people be? A little girl brings a gift she made with her own hands for her grandmother, and you throw her out into a blizzard 20-something below zero, hungry, freezing, terrified she might die, just to protect your precious, perfect family image. Do you even have a conscience?" The air grew taut, like a string about to snap. Some relatives whispered, some stared at the floor, a few looked at me with awkward guilt, but no one dared speak against the Holts. They were all afraid of Clark, afraid of Ainsley, afraid of the family's fake authority. Then Sabrina, my wife, the woman I had once trusted with my heart and with my daughter, believing she would love Piper like her own, walked over from the corner, red dress hugging her body, lips glossy, eyes cold and unfamiliar. Instead of standing with me or defending Piper, she raised her voice like she was giving orders. "What the hell are you doing, Grant? You're ruining everyone's night. Apologize to my parents right now and take Piper home." I stood motionless, staring at her. "You want me to apologize? After what they just did to her?" Sabrina glanced away, voice turning icy. "Grant, don't make this worse. Just say sorry and take the kid home. She shouldn't be here." I looked at her for a long moment, feeling a stranger in front of me. "You just called our daughter the kid? Do you even hear yourself?" Silence. My last shred of trust crumbled. This woman I had loved and sacrificed everything for was now standing with the people who had hurt our little girl. Clark Holt's face turned purple with rage. He jabbed a finger toward the door and roared, "If you're not going to apologize, then get the hell out. Get out and take that stray child with you, and don't ever come back." That phrase, "stray child," was the final knife in the heart. In that moment, everything collapsed. All these years I had treated them like blood, sacrificed everything to fit in, to give Piper a family, while they had never once seen us as part of theirs. We were nothing but extras, a walking ATM to be used and discarded. I didn't say another word. I turned, walked out, leaving behind the whispers, the cold stares, and the house I had once tried so desperately to belong to. The door slammed shut behind me, the lock clicking like the end of a painful chapter of my life. I walked back to the truck, each step heavy as if the snow itself were trying to hold me down. When I opened the door, a rush of warm air from the heater enveloped me. And there was Piper sitting quietly, her big eyes looking up at me with a mix of curiosity and worry. She wasn't crying anymore, but her cheeks were still flushed from cold and hurt, and she clutched the crumpled gift box to her chest like it was the last treasure she had left. "Daddy, what did they say?" Her voice was barely a whisper, as though speaking any louder might shatter something fragile. I couldn't answer right away. I just slid into the driver's seat, pulled her into my arms, and held her as tightly as I could, as if letting go even for a second would mean losing her forever. The scent of her hair, the melted snow still clinging to her coat, everything made my heart twist. "It's okay, sweetheart. It's just you and me now. We're going home," I whispered, my voice breaking. Then I quietly pressed the gas and the truck rolled away from the Holt house, leaving behind the fake sparkle of their Christmas lights. My chest felt like it was carrying a ton of stone. Every breath carried a pain and rage I had never known before. As I drove through the thick, swirling snow, the wind howling against the windows, my mind sank into a storm of memories. The image of Piper huddled at that bus stop kept replaying in my head like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. My tiny girl in the freezing dark, clutching her handmade gift, eyes red with rejection. How could they do that to her? How could Sabrina stand there and watch her own daughter be thrown out into the cold without saying a single word? The question spun wildly, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The snow fell harder, headlights barely cutting through the white curtain ahead, but the memories were crystal clear, dragging me back to the darkest days of my life. 12 years ago, everything had still been peaceful. Anna Fowler, my first wife, Piper's real mother, had been the gentlest woman I'd ever known, with long golden hair and a smile like spring sunlight. We had a happy life in South Dakota. Fowler construction was growing, Piper had just been born, and everything felt perfect. Then came the car accident. One rainy afternoon, Anna was driving to pick Piper up from daycare when a truck lost control. I got the call from the hospital, the doctor's voice flat and cold. "I'm sorry, Mr. Fowler. Your wife didn't make it." Piper was only 2, still babbling "mama," not understanding that her mother was gone forever. That loss hit me like a bomb. For weeks, I couldn't get out of bed. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, tears rolling down without me even noticing. Piper cried for her mommy, and I held her while my own heart shattered, not knowing how to fill the hole Anna had left. The company nearly went under because I couldn't function. Friends worried, but I didn't care. It took months, with help from close friends and a therapist, before I could stand again. I told myself, "You have to be strong for Piper. She's so little, and you're all she has left." After that darkness, I threw myself into work and fatherhood like a machine. Up at 5 every morning, making breakfast for Piper, dropping her at daycare. Then working construction sites from dawn until long after dark. I became both father and mother, learning to braid her hair, cooking soup when she was sick, reading bedtime stories every night so she wouldn't feel the ache of missing her mom so much. I poured every ounce of love into Piper, buying her the prettiest toys, taking her to the park every weekend, just to try to make up for the mother she'd lost. Late at night, when she was finally asleep, I'd sit by her bed watching that angelic little face, tears falling as I whispered, "Daddy will never let you want for anything again, baby." It was a vow. Piper grew up in my arms, sensitive and wise beyond her years in a way that broke my heart. She never demanded anything, always greeted me with a bright smile no matter how late I got home. Always hugged me tight like she was afraid I'd disappear. Deep down, I knew she carried that fear. The fear of being left behind, the same way her mother had left. But she never said it out loud, and I never asked, terrified of reopening the wound. We had each other. That was enough. The company recovered. I rebuilt Fowler Construction from nothing into one of the top firms in South Dakota. No matter how busy I got, Piper always came first. Years later, when Piper was 8, I met Sabrina Holt. She was 32, a marketing rep at a high-end furniture showroom. Long brown hair, sweet smile, outwardly gentle. Looking back now, I see the selfishness, the need to show off, the smooth social skills. We met at a business conference. She approached me, full of praise for the company, and we started dating. For the first time since Anna died, my heart stirred. Sabrina listened to my stories about Piper and said, "I'll love her like my own." I thought I'd finally found someone to share my life with, someone who could give Piper the feeling of having a mother again. At first, Sabrina was wonderful. She came over, brought gifts for Piper, baked cookies with her, read books, took her to the park and amusement parks. Piper was overjoyed. The first time she called Sabrina Mommy, her eyes sparkled with pure happiness. I felt completely at peace, convinced this was a new beginning for all three of us. We married after a year of dating, a simple but warm wedding, and I did everything I could to make the family blend. I gave Sabrina and the Holts almost everything. I believed that was how you built a real home. I bought her parents, Clark and Ainsley Holt, a big, beautiful house in the suburbs so they could enjoy retirement. Clark, 62, a retired salesman who'd failed at nearly everything and drowned in debt, was obsessed with pride and money. He loved bragging about his glory days that never existed. Ainsley, 58, was bitter and showy, always dripping in fake gold, boasting about European trips she'd never taken, looking at Piper like she was an unwanted intruder who didn't deserve the Holt name. I even bought Sabrina's spoiled younger brother Carson, 25, a brand new sports car, hoping it would help him settle into a steady job. Carson never held a job longer than 3 months. He drank, gambled, and called me whenever he needed cash. I paid for everything: utilities, heating, health insurance, living expenses, even their old debts. I sent checks every month, renovated their house, bought birthday gifts just to keep them happy. I thought my sacrifices would fill the emptiness Anna left, and that they would make Piper feel loved and truly part of a new family. Every rare time Ainsley gave Piper a half-hearted compliment and Piper's face lit up, I told myself it was all worth it. I worked myself to exhaustion, but seeing my daughter happy was enough. But over time, the cracks appeared, slowly, steadily. The Holts grew colder. They started treating my help like it was their right, like I owed them. Clark mocked my company. Ainsley rolled her eyes whenever Piper made a mistake. Carson borrowed the cars I bought and wrecked them without apology. Sabrina changed too. She began putting her blood family first, ignoring Piper when she needed her most. Little things cut like knives. Ainsley's annoyed glances when Piper sat too close. Clark's sneering comments like, "She takes after her mother, so weak." Sabrina's cold indifference when Piper cried. Each one chipped away at my trust. I swallowed my anger, convinced myself it was just misunderstanding, tried even harder to fit in. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. And tonight was the final straw. Kicking Piper out into the freezing night, calling her a stray child, it shattered the last boundary in my heart. My grip tightened on the wheel as pain turned into a slow-burning rage that spread through every vein. I realized that if I stayed silent any longer, I would be complicit in my own daughter's pain. I couldn't let Piper grow up with that fear of abandonment repeating over and over. I glanced at Piper sitting quietly beside me, eyes still red from cold and hurt, clutching her ruined gift like a reminder of the cruelty she'd just endured. In that moment, I made the most important decision I'd made in years. Things could not go on like this. I would no longer be the weak man who sacrificed everything for fake acceptance. I had to change. I had to stand up, protect my daughter, and protect myself from everything the Holt family had done and kept doing. I would never let that cruelty touch her again. The truck pushed through the snow until we reached our house, the small, warm home Anna and I had built together. I carried Piper inside, ran her a hot bath, made her a steaming bowl of soup, and held her until she fell asleep. But inside me, I knew the real storm was only just beginning. The next morning, I woke before dawn, while South Dakota was still shrouded in darkness and biting cold. Piper was still sleeping soundly in her room, her little face finally peaceful after a long night of nightmares. I sat by her bedside for a while, watching the tangled blonde hair and the long lashes resting on her cheeks, then stood up with a resolve as clear and sharp as crystal. No more hesitation. No more negotiation. I went straight to my home office, opened my laptop, and began. First, I cut off every penny of financial support to the Holt family. I called the bank and ordered them to freeze all the linked accounts I had set up for them. The monthly transfers that paid their utilities, insurance, even Carson's pocket money. Next, I blocked Sabrina's credit cards, the ones she used to shop without a second thought. Finally, I drafted an email to reclaim the house. Every document, purchase contract, deed, mortgage was in my name alone. I had paid for it in full because I never wanted them to have any legal claim. I forwarded it to our family lawyer with instructions to deliver formal eviction notice to the Holts within 24 hours. It was quick, clean, and merciless, like surgically removing a cancer that had metastasized far too long. I knew the backlash would be immediate, and it was. Barely 30 minutes later, while I was making coffee in the kitchen, my phone started vibrating like it was possessed. The screen lit up red. Sabrina first, then Clark Holt, Ainsley Holt, Carson Holt. Call after call, texts pouring in like a storm. "Grant, what the hell are you doing? You dare cut off our money? Is this some kind of joke, son-in-law?" The phone kept buzzing, but I didn't pick up once. I silenced it, flipped it face down on the counter, and went on with my day. For the first time in years, I felt light, as if a mountain had been lifted off my shoulders. All day I threw myself into work. A major construction project on the city outskirts was at a critical stage, and even though the $100 million contract from the night before was probably gone for good, I had to keep the company standing. My employees looked at me with worried eyes, but I smiled and reassured them. "I'm fine. Keep working." I reviewed blueprints, met with foremen, and tried not to think about the growing voicemail backlog. Piper was at school. I texted her teacher and asked her to keep an extra eye on my girl. Tonight I'd tell her a happy story to erase the memory of last night. But that evening, when I came home exhausted, covered in dust from the site, Sabrina was standing on the front porch under the streetlight. Her face was flushed with fury, hair disheveled, looking for all the world like she was the victim. Before I could say a word, she stormed inside, high heels clacking angrily on the hardwood floor. "Grant, what game are you playing? Freezing my cards, cutting off my parents, trying to take their house. Have you lost your mind?" I closed the door and looked calmly at the woman I had once trusted completely. She was still beautiful, long brown hair, sharp green eyes, but that beauty now felt foreign to me. In my mind flashed the image of Piper shivering in the freezing night, curled up at the bus stop clutching her ruined gift. I asked only one thing, my voice as cold as the winter wind. "Why did you stand there last night and watch Piper be thrown out into the street without saying a single word to protect her?" For a split second she froze, eyes flickering as if I'd struck a nerve she didn't want touched. Then she exploded, voice shrill with rage. "Because of one child, you're willing to tear apart our entire family's happiness?" I opened my mouth, but she threw up a hand to silence me, chest heaving. "Piper's old enough to take care of herself. You can't use her as an excuse to attack my family. You're completely out of control, Grant. Stop this right now. Do you hear me? If you keep going, don't expect me to forgive you." She stood tall, breathing hard, glaring at me as though I were the one who had betrayed the family. I didn't beg. I didn't explain. I just watched her storm out in a fury I'd never seen before, the door slamming behind her. I knew this marriage had cracked long ago. The tiny fissures had built up over years, and last night was only the final drop. The only thing I needed to protect now was Piper. I locked the door, checked that she hadn't heard anything, then sank onto the couch and exhaled. The storm had officially arrived. The following days were heavier than I'd imagined. Calls, texts, threats, and guilt-tripping messages from the Holts came nonstop, like an endless bombardment. Sabrina sent dozens. "You'll regret this, Grant. My parents are crying because of you. You're heartless." Clark left screaming voicemails. Ainsley sent tearful voice notes full of self-pity. Carson posted rants on Facebook calling me the ungrateful jerk who destroyed my family. They threatened lawsuits, threatened to tell all the relatives, threatened to ruin me. I treated it all like background noise, meaningless echoes from a past I no longer wanted any part of. I didn't respond, didn't answer a single message. I just focused on Piper, driving her to school, cooking dinner, reading bedtime stories. When she asked about Mommy Sabrina, I only said gently, "Everything will be okay, sweetheart. I promise." Then one afternoon, while I was in a meeting at the office, my secretary burst in pale. "Boss, Mr. and Mrs. Holt are here. They're making a scene in the lobby." I sighed, stood up, and walked out. Clark and Ainsley had barged past reception and were shouting in the middle of my company's headquarters. Clark slammed his fist on a table. "You dare cut off our livelihood? We treated you like a son." Ainsley wailed. "You ungrateful monster. You're going to let us starve." Employees glanced at each other nervously. The whole office tensed. But I didn't give them even a minute of argument. I stood calm and spoke in a voice like ice. "Leave now, or I'll have security escort you out." My tone threw them off balance. Clark stammered, You wouldn't dare treat us like this." Ainsley shrieked a few more insults. I pressed the button for security. 2 large guards appeared and politely but firmly led them out. They kept yelling as they were removed. "You'll remember this day. You'll pay for it. Ungrateful, disloyal son-in-law." I went back to my meeting as if nothing had happened, but I knew the storm hadn't ended. It didn't stop there. Carson posted outright lies in the extended family group chats, ones that included relatives from both sides. He wrote, "Grant Fowler abandoned his wife's family, cut off all money, and is throwing us out on the street. He only cares about his own kid and treats the rest of us like garbage." The lies spread fast, and soon relatives were calling me. "How could you do this, Grant? Have you no heart?" Their voices dripped with disappointment as if I were the villain. Faced with that wave of criticism, I stayed silent. I didn't defend myself, didn't explain, didn't post clarifications or call anyone to set the record straight. I just kept working, meeting new partners to replace the lost contract, and kept taking care of Piper. Art classes, board games every night, holding her when she cried for Anna, her real mom. In the middle of all the chaos, I realized my silence wasn't weakness. It was the final warning to the Holt family that I was no longer the man they could trample. I had woken up, and now they would have to live with the consequences of their own greed and cruelty. In the days that followed, when the Holts saw that I remained completely silent in the face of their attacks, they mistook my quiet for fear and weakness. Emboldened, they escalated. They no longer limited themselves to private calls and messages. They began fabricating lies, slandering me, and smearing my name on every possible front. Family group chats, local South Dakota community groups, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. Carson led the charge, positioning himself as the tech-savvy young guy. He posted long, dramatic rants in the relatives group, attaching old wedding photos of me and Sabrina with captions like, "This is the man who abandoned his wife and her family in their darkest hour. He cut off all financial support and is throwing us out on the street over one tiny misunderstanding. Who would have thought my brother-in-law could be so heartless?" Ainsley went live on Facebook, sobbing theatrically. "We treated Grant like our own son, gave him everything, and now he's turned his back on us and left us to starve." Clark piled on in the comments, "Ungrateful, greedy bastard who only cares about his own kid from his first marriage." They invented everything, that I was cheating, that I physically abused Sabrina, that I was gambling away company money. The stories spread like wildfire, especially in a tight-knit place like South Dakota where everyone knows everyone. From the parents' group at Piper's school to local business networks and online forums, the poison seeped everywhere. In just a few days, the image of the decent man I'd spent years building, someone who had grown Fowler Construction from nothing, always paid employees on time, sponsored local charity events, was grotesquely distorted. I became the deadbeat husband who mistreated his wife's family, the irresponsible monster who abandoned his own people. Strangers messaged me, "You're scum." Public comments appeared. Who would ever do business with Fowler Construction when it's run by a guy like that? Each one felt like a knife in the chest, but I still didn't respond. The rumors quickly reached major clients. Mr. Thompson, the partner I had walked out on Christmas Eve, called, voice hesitant. "Grant, I've been hearing some things about your family situation. We need time to reconsider the contract." Some clients delayed signing, sending emails like, "We are currently reevaluating partner credibility." One big Chicago firm even demanded an independent audit to verify Fowler Construction's transparency. Projected revenue for the month took a noticeable dip, and I knew that if this wasn't handled carefully, the company could be in serious trouble. The pressure weighed on me like lead. Nights found me staring at the ceiling, worrying about the hundreds of employees who depended on me. The atmosphere inside the company grew heavier than ever. People whispered in the break room. I caught fragments. Is the boss getting sued? His in-laws are accusing him of everything. Some employees wavered, looking at me with doubt, afraid the scandal would sink us. A young engineer came to me privately. "Sir, I saw stuff online. Is any of it true?" I just smiled, clapped him on the shoulder, and said, "Focus on the job, son. Everything will be fine." But I knew they were rattled. Work on the site slowed, people were distracted, worried their next paycheck might not come. Despite pressure so intense I sometimes wanted to punch a wall, I refused to justify myself to anyone. I understood that the more I explained, the deeper I'd be dragged into the exact media trap the Holts had set. They wanted me to lose my temper, to post rebuttals so they could keep attacking and turn it into an ugly public mudslinging match. I'd seen it happen to others. The more you talk, the worse the smears get. No, I wasn't falling for it. Instead, I poured everything into the work. I put in 14-hour days, reviewing every blueprint, supervising every concrete pour, making sure every detail exceeded standards. I proved my worth through real results and integrity, not pointless arguments. To hesitant partners, I sent detailed progress reports and invitations. Come see the site with your own eyes, and please stay out of my personal life. Slowly, some came back, impressed by my professionalism in the middle of the storm. Then one day, when the scandal was at its peak, rumors everywhere, the #number sign mocking Grant Fowler actually trending locally, Sabrina walked into my office like a hurricane. Short, tight dress, hair in a high bun, face twisted with venom and triumph, as if she now held all the cards. My secretary tried to stop her, but she shoved past and burst in, "Grant, we need to talk." Everyone in the lobby went dead silent. I looked up from my paperwork, perfectly calm. "What are you doing here, Sabrina?" She slapped a thick stack of papers on my desk, divorce papers, with a sneer. "I'm here to end this. I'm filing for divorce and demanding half of everything. The company, the houses, the cars, everything gets split 50-50 under the law. You thought you could cut us off and pay no price. You're weak now, Grant. You'll be begging me soon." I just looked at her, my expression so calm it clearly unnerved her. I didn't yell, didn't argue, didn't plead the way she expected. I stood with arms folded, silently watching the woman who used to be my wife finally reveal her true face. Greedy, vicious, calculating. Piper, shivering in the snow, flashed before my eyes again, reminding me exactly why I was doing all of this. I said nothing. No reaction. I gave her none of the emotion she wanted to feed her rage. My silence infuriated her. Her face turned crimson, eyes blazing. "You think staying quiet makes you look strong? I'm taking this to court, and you'll find out what betrayal really costs. You'll lose everything, Grant. Everything." Heels hammering the floor, leaving behind a suffocating tension and curious stares from the staff. I closed the door, sat down, and exhaled. The scandal still raged outside, but in that moment only one thought filled my mind. They had crossed the final line, and I would not let them win. I called my secretary in and gave clear instructions. From now on, no one from the Holt family is allowed in this building. Then I went back to work, as if that visit had been nothing more than a passing breeze. Deep down, though, I knew the real battle was just beginning, in a courtroom where the truth would finally have its say. After days of slander and failing to force me back into funding them, the Holt family decided to go all in. They believed I was weak, terrified of the online smears, so they sued me. A few days later, Clark and Ainsley's lawsuit landed with my attorney. Accusations of illegally repossessing the house, intentionally inflicting emotional distress, and demands for an astronomical sum in damages. They painted themselves as pitiful victims driven to ruin by a disloyal son-in-law. I read the complaint and smirked. Every word was pure fiction, but I knew they were betting everything. Not to be outdone, Sabrina filed separately, convinced she could break me completely. She accused me of emotional abuse, demanded immediate divorce, claimed half of all marital assets, including Fowler Construction, which I had built long before I ever met her, and sought sky-high spousal support. In her filing, she portrayed herself as the poor, abandoned wife who had shouldered the family alone. Reading it didn't scare me. It only made me ache for the years I had wasted on someone like her. Still, I didn't panic. I had been ready for this legal war for a long time. Quietly, I prepared everything for the fight I knew was coming. First, I drove back to the bus stop where Piper had been abandoned on Christmas Eve. A small house nearby belonged to an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, friendly neighbors I'd greeted a few times. I knocked, explained the situation, and asked for their security camera footage. I got lucky. Their camera had captured everything clearly. Piper huddled in the heavy snow, shaking uncontrollably, clutching her gift box, her breath coming out in white puffs. The image of a 12-year-old child thrown out into a freezing night was ironclad proof of the Holt's cruelty. The Wilsons were horrified and copied the video for me without hesitation. Dear God, how could they do that to a little girl? Next, I gathered every document proving the house was solely mine. Original purchase contract, deed, payment records, all showing it was bought before the marriage with Sabrina. My attorney added legal opinions confirming no marital property existed with the Holts. Everything I had given them over the years was legally irrevocable gifts with no binding contracts. I left them no loophole. I also pulled complete bank records, detailed statements proving I had paid every single expense for the Holts for 7 years, utilities, heating, health insurance, even their old debts. Month after month, quarter after quarter, hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing from my accounts alone. Those receipts didn't just show my generosity, they exposed their dependence and greed. Not 1 cent had ever come from them, they only knew how to take. Then an unexpected piece fell into place. A kind-hearted Holt relative, Aunt Evelyn, Ainsley's older sister, who had witnessed everything that Christmas night. She called me late one evening, voice trembling. Grant, I can't stay silent anymore. I saw Piper kicked out. I saw my own sister slap the gift from her hand. I'll testify for you. Evelyn agreed to take the stand and describe in detail how Piper stood crying in a crowded living room while no one helped her. That single insider turning against them cracked their entire plan wide open. Conscience had won. I handed every piece of evidence to my lawyer, James Harlan, an old trusted friend, and calmly waited for trial day. I didn't need to do anything more, the truth would speak for itself. While waiting, life went on normally. I drove Piper to school, worked at the company, held her every night as she fell asleep. When she asked, "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy Sabrina come home anymore?" I just smiled and said, "I won't let her hurt you again. You and I are enough." The online scandal still raged, but I ignored it. The courtroom, not the internet, would decide right and wrong. The trial day finally arrived at the local courthouse in South Dakota. Outside, the air was bitter cold with light snow falling. Inside the courtroom, the tension burned like fire. The Holts walked in arrogant and smug, convinced victory was already theirs. Clark in a black suit, Ainsley dripping with pearls, Carson smirking while holding his phone, Sabrina perfectly made up and shooting me venomous looks. They believed one hearing would crush me, seize my assets, and brand me the loser in the court of public opinion. Their young, shrill lawyer opened with a barrage of accusations. They presented doctored emails, coached testimony from a few loyal relatives, and painted Sabrina as the victim of a toxic marriage. Mr. Grant Fowler abused his financial power, threw the Holt family onto the street, and caused severe emotional distress, the lawyer shouted while Ainsley produced theatrical tears. Sabrina sobbed on the stand. He never really loved me, he just used me and abandoned me. They demanded asset division, support, damages, everything built on lies. I sat quietly and watched the performance. The judge, a stern middle-aged woman, took careful notes but raised an eyebrow in skepticism several times. When it was our turn, Harlan rose, voice steady as granite. He dismantled their case point by point. First, the Wilson security video. The courtroom fell dead silent as Piper's tiny, terrified figure appeared on screen, shaking in the snow, crying into the phone. Her faint sobs echoed through the speakers. Several people wiped away tears. "This, Your Honor, is child endangerment," Harlan declared. Next, thick stacks of bank records proving I had single-handedly supported the Holts. Property documents confirming the house was separate, premarital property. Then Aunt Evelyn took the stand, voice trembling but resolute. I watched my own sister throw Piper out. The child was crying and no one helped her. Grant never mistreated anyone. My family are the greedy ones. Finally, Piper herself testified, voice soft, eyes red. I just wanted to give Grandma my present, but she sent me away. The judge stared at the Holts with unmistakable disapproval. Faced with irrefutable evidence, the entire Holt case collapsed like a house of cards. The court dismissed every claim for assets, support, and emotional distress damages. The judge ruled, there is no evidence Mr. Fowler violated any law. On the contrary, the plaintiff's conduct demonstrates exploitation of generosity. Clark went pale. Ainsley cried real tears this time. Carson put away his phone and Sabrina sat frozen, glaring at me with pure hatred. The Holts lost spectacularly. They shuffled out of the courthouse with slumped shoulders, their arrogance shattered. Local papers picked up the story quickly, then it spread across social media, exposing the full extent of their defamation, fraud, and greed. Headlines screamed, Holt family loses lawsuit exposed as greedy after throwing granddaughter out into blizzard. The security video of Piper went viral. Public outrage turned them into the most heartless family of the year. Friends abandoned them, relatives turned away, the community shunned them. I felt no gloating triumph. I didn't cheer or post victory photos. I only felt a deep, quiet peace, as if the final door on years of pain had finally closed, letting Piper and me step into a new chapter. That night I held my daughter as she slept and whispered, "It's over, baby. From now on, only peace." For the first time in months, I slept soundly. No more nightmares of falling snow and lies. Life for Piper and me gradually settled into a calm, steady rhythm after the storm. Our little house, the one where Anna used to laugh, where Piper had grown up surrounded by warm memories, became cozier than ever. No more harassing calls, no more slanderous messages, no more shadows of cruel people. We spent every moment we could together. Mornings began with me brewing coffee while Piper sat at the kitchen table drawing, giggling as she told me about school. Evenings were for baking, almond cookies, her favorite. Then curling up on the couch watching cartoons, laughing until our sides hurt. Piper slowly let go of the fear of being abandoned. She no longer woke up in the middle of the night crying from nightmares about that snowy night. Instead, she smiled more, hugged me tighter, and said, "Daddy, I love you most in the whole world." Those words melted my heart and made every sacrifice feel worth it. Work at Fowler Construction didn't just recover, it exploded. New contracts poured in, residential projects, major urban infrastructure, everything. Partners from Chicago, New York, even California called nonstop, praising the way I had handled the scandal. "You're an inspiration, Grant," one CEO told me during a video call. Revenue doubled, I hired more staff, expanded job sites, and for the first time in years, I actually had time to breathe. Life for the two of us became fuller than ever. We bought new things for the house, Piper got her own room filled with easels and art books, and I even started saving for a short vacation. Everything felt like a beautiful dream after a long nightmare, peaceful, solid, and full of hope. In stark contrast, the Holt family sank deeper into crisis. After losing my financial support, they had to sell everything just to survive. Carson's sports car went for pennies. Ainsley pawned her pearl necklaces. Even the fancy furniture in their rental slowly disappeared to pay debts. The old loans I used to cover came due all at once, with interest piling on top of interest. Clark tried to find work but was turned away everywhere because of his reputation. Who wants to hire an old man who slandered his own son-in-law online? Ainsley took cleaning jobs but was fired after a few days for her bitter attitude. Carson drifted from one odd job to another only to be recognized. "You're that spoiled kid from the Holt scandal? No thanks." Sabrina worked night shifts at a fast food place, face gaunt, eyes ringed with dark circles from sleeplessness and regret. They fought constantly in their damp, cheap apartment, blaming each other. "This is all because you threw the kid out." "No, it's because you were stupid, Sabrina." Their once luxurious life was reduced to meager meals, endless bills, and dread of tomorrow. One day, while I was resting at home after a long week, Piper drawing in her room, soft music playing on the radio, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find the entire Holt family standing there. Clark, Ainsley, and Carson looking utterly broken. Clark was skeletal, unshaven. Ainsley's eyes were red, her makeup smeared. Carson stared at the ground, hands shaking. They stood in the drizzling rain, clothes worn and old, like ghosts from a past life. I didn't invite them in. I just asked coldly, "It's over. Why are you here?" They bowed their heads and begged, voices trembling. Clark spoke first, hoarse and desperate. "Grant, we were wrong. Please forgive us. We have nothing left. The scandal destroyed us. Relatives turned away, neighbors despise us. Please, just help us a little, anything. We're destitute." Ainsley sobbed. "I know I was wrong to send Piper away. I didn't think. Please have mercy." Carson muttered, "Brother-in-law, I'm sorry. We have nowhere else to go." I looked at them calmly. My heart no longer stirred. Every memory flashed back. Piper shivering in the snow, pleading on the phone. The online lies that nearly ruined my company, the fake evidence in court. The insults they had hurled at us. I asked, voice low but sharp, "Did you ever once think about the consequences when you treated my daughter and me that way? When you threw a child out into a Christmas blizzard? When you slandered me to steal my money?" They fell silent, heads bowed, unable to offer a single excuse. Clark stammered wordlessly. Ainsley wiped tears. Carson stared at the ground. My answer was final, ice cold. "No, I gave you far more than enough. From now on, I live for my daughter and for myself. We are done." They shuffled away in despair, shoulders slumped under the rain like defeated soldiers. I closed the door, turned back inside, and hugged Piper as she ran up, asking, "Who was it, Daddy?" I smiled. "Nobody important, sweetheart." A few days later, Sabrina appeared alone on my doorstep. The arrogance and sharpness were gone. Her face was hollow, eyes dark with exhaustion and pleading, clothes plain and unfamiliar. She stood there, voice shaking. "Grant, I came to apologize. Please let me come back. I swear I'll change. I'll love Piper and care for her like my own. I'll do anything to fix this. I have nothing left. Please." I looked at her calmly, no longer angry. Only the quiet ache of 7 years spent believing in something that never existed. "You had plenty of time to prove it, Sabrina. For 7 years, you never truly cared about Piper. And you never kept a single promise you made. I lowered my voice, but every word carried weight. If you had cared, the night your mother threw her out, you would have run after her, instead of standing there like a stranger. She froze. Her lips trembled, tears fell, but her eyes were empty. Not for Piper, but because she finally understood that everything she had clung to, status, money, connections, was slipping away forever. She choked out one last feeble plea. "Grant, please, one more chance. I'll change." I shook my head, slow and final, closing a door that had been rotting for years. "There are no more chances, Sabrina. Go." She stared, choked on a sob, then bowed her head. No arguing, no screaming, just silence as she turned and walked away, carrying every consequence she had created. I didn't call after her. I simply held Piper close and watched Sabrina's figure grow smaller under the streetlights, slowly vanishing into the cold night. I knew that was the last time. After that, I devoted even more time to Piper. We went to the park, talked about her dreams, helped her heal from the old wounds of rejection. We fished on weekends, painted together, and her laughter filled the house again. Bright, fearless laughter. She told me about friends at school, showed me drawings she made for me, and grew stronger every day. Eventually, Sabrina left town for good, disappearing without a goodbye, fleeing the wreckage she had made. Word was she moved to a small city in another state, scraping by with odd jobs, living alone. Unable to bear the public shame and neighbors' scorn, the rest of the Holts quietly moved to a different state, dragging their humiliation and hardship with them. Clark and Ainsley aged overnight. Carson drifted aimlessly. They lived in a cheap apartment, doing manual labor to survive, forever haunted by the scandal. No one remembered them with respect anymore, only as a cautionary tale about greed. When the last echoes of turmoil finally faded, Piper and I rebuilt our life on the simplest, strongest foundations. Family dinners, weekend outings, peaceful nights. And in that peace, I came to understand more deeply than ever the value of what I had fought so hard to protect. My love for Piper, my own integrity, and the quiet certainty that life, in the end, is fair to those who live with decency. Sometime later, when the wounds in our hearts had gradually healed and the company was running smoothly again, I decided to take Piper on a long vacation, just the two of us, to breathe new air and spend uninterrupted time together. We chose a beachfront resort in Florida. Miles of soft white sand, gentle waves, and warm sunshine all year round. I wanted Piper to forget the dark months, to feel that life still held countless beautiful things waiting for her. We flew in on a crisp, clear morning. Piper clutched her little suitcase, eyes sparkling. "Daddy, I want to collect seashells and walk the whole beach." I laughed and pulled her into a hug. "Absolutely. Today is your day. We're going to explore every inch of this place." That trip was pure medicine. No courts, no rumors, only the blue ocean and laughter. At the seaside resort with its wooden bungalows facing the ocean, we happened to meet a woman named Elena Carter and her family who were vacationing there too. Elena was about 35, with long, wavy brown hair and a smile as bright as morning sunlight. She worked as an interior designer. We first met on the beach that very first afternoon. Piper was building a sandcastle and Elena was sitting nearby reading a book. She grinned when Piper waved and called out, "Miss, will you help me make a really tall tower?" Without hesitation, Elena dropped to her knees in the sand and started shaping the castle with quick, skilled hands. Her warmth and playfulness instantly won Piper over. My daughter laughed loudly, running circles around Elena like they were old friends. I lay on a lounge chair a short distance away, shielding my eyes from the sun, quietly watching. My heart felt full seeing Piper so happy after everything she'd been through. Piper adored Elena from the start. The two became inseparable, playing together every day as if they'd known each other forever. Mornings were for beach walks. Piper would hold Elena's hand and chatter about school while Elena listened attentively, saying things like, "You draw so well. Tomorrow I'll teach you how to paint waves and seagulls, okay?" Afternoons were spent building sandcastles, collecting shells, or swaying in hammocks watching clouds drift by. I saw the relief in my daughter's eyes. The eyes that once filled with tears of hurt now sparkled with joy. Every night Piper whispered to me, "Daddy, Elena is so nice. She feels like a mom." Those words choked me up, but they also told me Piper was ready to open her heart again. Elena's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, a cheerful retired couple from Ohio, took an immediate liking to Piper too. Whenever I had to handle a quick work call or check emails, they happily watched her. "Go take care of business, Grant. We've got the little one. She's such a sweet, good girl," Mr. Carter would say with a grin, then take Piper off to look for starfish. Mrs. Carter baked cookies for her and told childhood stories. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was carrying everything alone. Someone understood, someone helped, and that warmth was almost overwhelming. Over the days, a deep connection grew between Elena and me. We started talking more. Evenings on the bungalow porch, listening to the waves, I told her about Anna, about Piper, about the painful years and the scandal with the Holts. Elena listened without judgment, gently holding my hand. "You're so strong, Grant. Not everyone could rise again the way you have." She shared her own story. Once divorced from a selfish husband, now living happily, focused on her career and family. I slowly opened my heart after years of guarding it, and she respected every step of my journey as a single father. Nothing was rushed or forced. Our feelings simply grew naturally and steadily. Sunset walks along the shore became our favorite ritual. The sun sank in fiery reds, waves whispered. Piper played ahead of us, and Elena and I sat on the sand holding hands, sharing ordinary life stories. One evening she murmured, "You know, I love the way you love Piper, completely and genuinely." I smiled. "And I love the way you make her laugh like you're healing both of us." Elena's family fully supported us. They saw me as a decent man and Piper as their own granddaughter. Mr. Carter clapped me on the shoulder. "You're a good man, Grant. Elena is lucky to have found you." Mrs. Carter hugged Piper. "Sweetheart, you can call me Grandma now, okay?" That warmth, the kind I thought I'd never feel again, filled every corner of my heart. We had dinners together, told jokes, played games. Simple things that made life feel whole again. Piper glowed. One day she ran to Elena and threw her arms around her. "Will you stay with us forever?" Elena smiled at me, eyes full of meaning. Near the end of the trip, I knew the moment had come. We were sitting on the beach at sunset, Piper playing nearby. I turned to my daughter and asked softly, "Sweetheart, how would you feel if Elena became your mom? Daddy wants to marry her." Piper's eyes went wide, then lit up brighter than I'd ever seen. "Really, Daddy? I'd love that. Elena is the best." She jumped up, ran to Elena, and hugged her tight, laughing with pure joy. In that instant, I knew my little girl's heart was ready for a new mother. Not to replace Anna, but to bring fresh, genuine love. We held a small, simple wedding right on the beach where the three of us had met. No huge guest list, no extravagant party. Just Mr. and Mrs. Carter, a few close friends from the resort, the sound of waves, warm sunlight, and the people who truly cherished us. Elena wore a simple white dress. Piper scattered flower petals with a huge grin, and I stood there in a white shirt, heart pounding. Our vows rang out beneath the open sky. "I promise to love you and Piper forever." Elena smiled through happy tears. "I do too, my love." "Grant." Piper cheered when we exchanged rings, and everyone clapped as laughter mixed with the sound of the sea. It was the happiest day after so many trials, a sincere, warm new beginning. 2 weeks later, I stood watching Piper and Elena playing on the white sand, my daughter's smile brighter than any I'd ever seen. They laughed, built sandcastles. Elena chased Piper through the shallow waves, water splashing everywhere. That moment made me reflect on everything we'd been through. Anna's death, the lonely years raising Piper alone, the failed marriage to Sabrina, the slander, the grueling trial, the collapse of the Holt family. It all played like a slow-motion film. painful, yet full of lessons. I realized that every rough road has a peaceful end if we hold on to kindness, courage, and faith in what is right. I had fiercely protected Piper, stayed silent in the face of lies, and let the truth speak for itself. Now the reward was a new family and real love. The greatest lesson of all: family is not where you were born, but where people choose to love you unconditionally. The Holts were family by marriage and blood, yet they never truly loved Piper or me. Elena and the Carters, strangers at first, gave us genuine, selfless love. To anyone suffering betrayal or pain, my heartfelt advice is this: stand strong, protect the ones you love, and trust that peace will find you at the right time with the right people. Never let greed or resentment cloud your heart. Live with decency and life will return the very best to you. Just like Piper and me now, happy beside Elena on the shore with a wide open future ahead.